Hello, I'm giving an introduction lecture to the ACSL topic. What does this program do? The goal in this topic is to identify the output of a given program when it is run. You will be given code for a theoretical program, and you have to find its output. This program isn't in any particular programming language, though its syntax is very similar to Python. The first important thing to know in this topic are the different operators that can be used. So on the left, we have the mathematical and logical operators. Um, so this is like a not, which changes a true to a false or a false to a true. And the rest of these are all mathematical. So an exponent works the same way it does in math. There's the arithmetic operators, which all work the same way they do in math. And we have the modulus operator, which is a mathematical operator, but perhaps one you're less familiar with. It just returns the remainder of two numbers. So in the example 10 modulus 3, when 10 is divided by 3, you are given a remainder of 1, so this operator would return a 1. The order of operations is standard PEMDAS order of operations. So if you need a refresher on that, you can just look that up, but that should be something hopefully you're familiar with. On the right, we have these logical operators. So there's greater than or less than, pretty standard. Greater than or equals to and less than or equals to. The double equal sign represents a comparison equals, while the single would be to set a variable. So double equal sign would be comparing if two things are equal, while a singular equal sign would be saying the variable a single equal sign a specific value. That'd be setting that variable. Bang equals is checks if two variables are not equal and will be returned true if those two variables are not equal. The double ampersand means an and, so you could have if 1 is greater than 2 and 2 is greater than 3, and those two conditions would both have to be true to satisfy the end. And the or, only one of those conditions would have to be true to satisfy the or. Very logical. Hopefully you can figure that out. All these operations are listed on the American Computer Science League wiki. And memorizing them, getting familiar with them is a great way to get started. The next are a few specific functions that may come up in this topic. The first one is the square root function, provides the square root of the inputted number. There's the int function, which provides the greatest integer less than or equal to x. So this is very different from rounding. In the example, you can see int of 5.43 is just 5. Int of 5.9 would also be 5. Essentially what it does is it chops off the decimal places. It doesn't round to the nearest whole number. It just flat out removes all the decimal places. And then ABS is absolute value. And again, something that you should be familiar with from just general math. Not a very crazy hard concept. One of the layouts of these programs are you're going to have a lot of if statements. You're going to have to evaluate them. And here's the syntax of an if statement in this ACSL language. Again, it looks very similar to Python, except instead of the colon after the Boolean expression, they use the word then. So if, and then there's a specific Boolean expression. So if that Boolean expression is true, then the first statements are executed. And then optionally, there could be an else. And that would run if the Boolean expression is not true. And then it would run the second statement, whatever is included in the second thing of statements. And then you'll also see this end if, which isn't common in other languages. But they don't do any indenting, so the end if is necessary there. While loops work the same way they would in any other language. The code in statements continues to execute while a certain Boolean expression is true. Again, you need an end while because unlike Python, there's no indenting, or a different language where you'd have some form of brackets. Those don't exist here, so it's very explicit, and the while loop closes with the end while. For loops are quite explicit, but essentially the way they work is for it sets a certain variable equal to a start integer. You'll always be getting integer numbers with for loops. And then there's the 2, and then there's the end integer, which you declare. And then there's a step, and then increment would be your step integer. So the way this would work is the variable, which you could name whatever you wanted, or ACSL would name whatever they want, would start equaling the integer replaced with the word start, and then would increase by the amount of the integer specified with the word increment. And each time it increased, the statements would run. So if start was 0, end was 2, and increment was 1, statements would run, variable would equal 0. Then because increment's 1, it increments by 1. So then the statements would run and variable would equal 1. And we're still not at end yet, so then it would increase by 1 more. And the statements would run and variable would equal 2, and that's the value of end, and then it would go and break out of the for loop. Arrays. Arrays are super similar to other languages. One-dimensional arrays use a single letter to index, single number to index. So A of 5 would give you the 6th element of the array. This is because the first element is the 0th element, essentially. So A of 0 would give you the first element. Two-dimensional arrays use row column order. So A2, 3 would be the 3rd row and the 4th column. As you can read here, 0 is the first location for a one-dimensional array, and 0, 0 is the first location, or the top left location for a two-dimensional array. Here are strings. So strings are often used in what does this program do, and they can be indexed in a very similar way to arrays. So in this string s, it has a length of 10, and the last element is at location 9. Once again, the first element is at location 0. So what the colon does, s colon 3, would mean takes the first 3 characters starting on the left. So the colon basically means all the characters before, in this case. And in S4 colon, it would take the last 4 characters starting on the right. If you use a colon in between two numbers, so like S2 colon 6, it would be inclusive, which means it would take the second character, or not the second, the third character, because 2 would be the third character, and the 7th character, because 6 would represent the 7th character, and it would take all the characters in between. So starting at location 2 and ending at location 6, all the characters in between would be the ones selected from the string, and if you use a single number, it will only take the character at that position. If the program had a plus between two strings, that would simply be combining the two strings by placing the second string at the end of the first string. So if you had, string A plus string B, it'd basically be the contents of string A and the contents of string B placed directly onto the end of string A. Here's a quick example. You're welcome to pause the video for a second and try to do this. But I will be hopping right into how you'd approach this problem. So what you'd first want to do is you'd always want to go line by line with these. They're an execute from top to bottom. So we're going to start with the first line. And a great way to keep yourself organized in these types of problems is by making a chart. So the first line, we're just setting all these variables. So as you can see here, I've made a chart of all the variables, and I'm just going to keep this chart and keep adding on to it as I continue with the problem. The next line says, if A times B equals D. So we can check if that's true. A times B is 2 times 10, and D is 20, and 2 times 10 does equal 20. So then we're going to execute A equals 2 times A. So basically, we're doubling the value of A. A started at 2. 2 times 2 is 4, so that's our new value of A. We don't have to worry about the else because the Boolean condition was true. So we just execute the stuff after the then. Note here, the end if is excluded. That's not always used, and it's not needed in this situation. It'll usually be quite clear when if statements end, um, but the end if operator isn't necessary in all situations. Here's a very simple one. C equals C plus 1. Our past value of C was 5. 5 plus 1 is 6, so that's our new value for C. Here we have if B times C is greater than A times D. So it's always good to start off by just looking at the Boolean expression and then ignoring the rest of it. So, because we can use that later after we determine if this is true or not. So B times C, that will be 10 times 4. So 10, 10 times 6. I already wrote 4 will be the answer after this. But 10 times 6 is 60. And then A times D is 4 times 20. So this is not true. So then C equals C minus 1. As you see here, I subtracted 2 from C, and 4 is our new value for C after this line is executed. After this line is executed, D equals B minus A. B is 10, A is 4. 10 minus 4 is 6. So that's our new value for D. So here we're checking if B divided by A, to be 10 divided by 4, is greater than, I already put in the new value for 6, but our old, for D, which is 7, but our old value was 6. If 10 over 4 is greater than 6 over 4, which logically, we know it is, then D equals 3 plus A. So the current value for A is 4. 4 plus 3 is 7. And so our new value for D is 7. Here we check if B, our old value for B, which is 10, I already put in the new value of 6. But if 10 to the power of C to the power of 4 is greater than 0, and 10 to the 4th is going to be bigger than 0, then B equals B minus 4. So just subtracting 4 from B. So I already put in our new answer. Our new value for B is 6. This, we're checking two things. We're checking if A is greater than B and if C is greater than D. So A is not greater than B, and there's no else. And there's no else. So this is false because it's an AND. So an AND would require both conditions to be true, and in this case, only one of them is false. We don't even have to check the other one, so we don't execute the then. This problem, D equals D minus A equals 4, D equals 7, so 7 minus 4 is 3, and that's our new value for D. And here it asks if D is greater than A. So our old value of D is 3, and A is 4, so that's not true. But this is an OR, so we have to check both conditions. Or if C is greater than B, which is not true either. But there's an else here, so we have to execute the else because this Boolean expression was false. So D is incremented by 1, so D goes from 3 to our new value, which is 4. And here is the output. So it says print A times B divided by C plus D. And as you can see there, I substituted in the proper values. This will end up simplifying to 24 over 8, which is 3. And that would be your answer for this problem because that's what gets printed out. And there's no more to do. Thank you very much.